At 6:59 p.m. on Tuesday, January 30th, 2024, 911 dispatchers received a call from 63-year-old Denise Moan. She had just returned home to find her husband, 68-year-old Michael Moan's white 2009 Toyota Corolla, missing from the driveway. When she went up to the house, she noticed that the front door was unlocked, which was odd considering her husband's car was gone, so nobody should be home. However, little did she know at that particular moment, Denise was about to walk in to the most horrific scene that any person could walk into. The unthinkable had actually happened, and she was about to walk in on the aftermath. But it was also going to get so much worse. Justin, her and her husband's son, was the only other person in the house that afternoon, and he was nowhere to be found.
I was trying to perform a citizen's arrest. He resisted that citizen's arrest. It's lawful to use deadly force in that event.
Hey humans, it's Hannah. Welcome back to the channel, or if you're new here, we do videos on creepy and disturbing things here. And today we are doing the bizarre case of Justin Moan, which is something that, as I've looked on YouTube, I couldn't find somebody else doing an actual deep dive on YouTube. And this case has really fascinated me since it first came out in the news. So I thought I would take you guys along on my little rabbit hole journey today. As I start talking, this case might ring a bell for you, as it was a huge news story at the time. But I just feel like there hasn't really been a deep dive into it. So here we are. Now, this video is supported by a sponsor, and I do apologize for the kind of tone shift here. However, without sponsors, I can't continue to make free content for you guys, so I do apologize. But don't worry, I will be literally right back. So I'm fairly confident that every single one of you probably has some doctor's appointment that you've been putting off for months, right? Is it a weird mole? Do you have a dull toothache? Maybe you're just really late on your annual exam. We all do it because, let's face it, it's not only a hassle, but most of us would rather step on a Lego than make a phone call in this day and age. And we're all just busy. We're all trying to pay our bills, keep our space clean, take care of our family, cook every day, and work, and it's just a lot. I don't know about you, but I don't have a ton of time to sit down for hours researching different doctors, figuring out which ones take my insurance, which ones are actually good and have good reviews, and I really don't want to call any of them and sit on hold for 20 minutes to book an appointment. Well, that is where today's sponsor, ZocDoc, comes in. ZocDoc is a completely free website where you can search and compare high-quality, in-network doctors, choose which one is right for you, and click to instantly book an appointment, all in one user-friendly place. ZocDoc helps you find in-network appointments with more than 100,000 healthcare providers across almost any specialty. Whether you need to find a therapist, a dentist, dermatologist, or just a new PCP, ZocDoc can find them for you in just a few clicks. All you have to do is go to ZocDoc.com/HannahTheHorrible, and first, they kind of have this fun little quiz you take to figure out your needs. You specify to them what insurance you're on, where your geographical location is, and what type of doctor you're really looking for, and out will pop results of doctors who have already been highly rated by actual verified patients. You don't even have to go to that provider's website. ZocDoc will show you that doctor's actual available appointments that you can click to book instantly. Often, patients can even find appointments within 24 to 72 hours of booking, and some can even find same-day appointments. Stop putting off that doctor's appointment that you've been meaning to get to for ages and go to ZocDoc.com/HannahTheHorrible to find a top-rated doctor today. The link will also be in the description, which you can find right below this video. Okay, so Justin Moan, we know, was born, I believe his birth year was probably around 1992, considering he was, some sources say 32, some say 33 at the time of this crime. but not much is known. I couldn't even find an exact birth date. I do know that he has a brother and a sister, but other than that, there wasn't much to find out about his childhood. As far as I know, nothing notable though, like no abuse from his parents or anything like that. The real story does start when Justin was in college in 2010. That's really where our story begins here, because there was actually a lot leading up to the crime that's important info that most people don't know about. From 2010 to 2014, Justin attended Pennsylvania State University. He majored in agribusiness management, which is basically the study of agriculture and the way that it fits into our economy and all that, which is kind of an odd thing to do if you're not interested in going on to be a farmer or something kind of in that field. Now, in order to go to college, Justin needed to take out student loans, just like many people in America have to do if they want to get an advanced degree. As a result of this, though, he ended up with quite a bit of student loan debt. At first, Justin was paying these off in $165 a month payments, but it was soon lowered to $80.45 a month because of his low income, because he didn't have a great job out of college. Now, as you'll find out throughout this story, Justin took this extremely personally, and he would go on to sue the US federal government, at least on, like, as far as we know, 4 separate occasions about his student loan debt. The basis for his lawsuit was that he was, quote, an overeducated white man, and he was being discriminated against in the job market for being overeducated, white, and a man. He claimed that affirmative action was preventing him from getting the job he deserved because women and minorities were being prioritized. And because of this, in his suit, he claimed that the government should never have allowed him to take loans out in the first place because they had the data and they knew that the likelihood of getting him a good, well-paying job that would make him rich to pay off his loans really quickly, they knew from the beginning that that was extremely unlikely and that he wouldn't be able to do it, but they made him take out loans anyway. That's literally what his argument was. He basically claimed that the government scammed him and committed fraud against him by not properly warning him about the job market. As you'll come to understand in this video, Justin seems very, very entitled. He feels as if he has every right because he went to college to make it big and get super rich. Might I remind you that most people don't get incredible jobs right out of college, and millions of people go into debt with student loans. I'm not saying it's right. To be clear, student loans are a scam in America. Student loan debt is a crisis, and it is ridiculous. It's very unfair to tell young people that in order to get any sort of career worthwhile, they need a degree to do that. But in order to get said degree, they either have to come from rich families in the first place or go into crippling debt in order to get the degree, which most people who are impoverished or grew up not wealthy, they're not going to bother. They're just going to go get a job that's going to start paying them right away. Like, yes, I'm not denying it's messed up, but what I am saying here is that Justin believed he was special. Justin was acting like he was the only one with this problem, or that it was only him and white men with this problem. And I'm not going to get too far into the political side of this, but affirmative action exists for a reason. He doesn't have any sort of proof or evidence that women and minorities are being prioritized and getting better jobs than him, because the data would suggest the opposite. Anyway, the whole point of me telling you all that is that Justin thinks he's special. Justin he's showing signs of feeling entitled to things that he hasn't actually worked for. And might I remind you, he got a degree in agribusiness and then expected to somehow make it big. Of course, all the filings were dismissed by the district court. He did not win any of these suits. So Justin graduates from the university in 2014, and in October of 2016, Justin is hired at Progressive Insurance in Colorado. So he moves across the country to Colorado for this job. He moved in with roommates in Colorado, and allegedly he had some disputes with these roommates that resulted in Colorado Springs Springs Police Department coming to their home at least on one occasion to talk to Justin. Now, meanwhile, at Progressive Insurance, like I said, October 2016, he's hired as a customer service representative. Now, remember how I said that Justin thinks he's special? Well, we're about to go on to prove that even more. So everyone hired at Progressive, not just Justin, anyone who is hired at Progressive typically starts as a customer service representative, and they go through, Progressive calls it a training academy, but really it's just a paid training program, but it's a long program. It's usually 10 to 12 weeks for anybody starting there. They have to go through this long training before they can be on their own. This is extremely common, and this makes sense, especially for the insurance industry. If you're not experienced in insurance, there's a lot to learn in order to help other people with their insurance. It typically took 10 to 12 weeks for people to finish. Justin notably took 13 weeks to finish the academy. So even though he was hired in October, he wasn't actually being a rep and on his own until March 2017. So March 2017, that is almost springtime here in the USA. Almost spring, and by summer, just a couple months later, Justin already felt that he should be promoted. Now, Progressive's policy is that workers must work at the company for at least 1 year before they will be allowed to apply for other positions within the company. Again, this is very typical of jobs here in the US. So summertime, just a couple months after he was finished training and on his own, Justin is asking his boss and the higher ups if he can apply for other positions. I honestly, this is an opinion, not a fact, but I honestly feel like Justin is like I said, you'll find throughout this story, he thinks he's special. He really wants to be a victim. And he also just thinks he's entitled to things that he's not. I think he had this grand plan in his head that he was going to make it to one of the higher ups in the company within a year of working there because he was so special and because he feels so entitled to things. And then got mad when that's just not how the world works. Justin literally believed that he was more educated and smarter than everybody else. Remember, in his suit to the government over his student loans, he described himself as an overeducated white man. So first, Justin asks his supervisor for permission to apply to an IT desk position at Progressive, and they said no. In July, he was actually able to apply for a senior copywriter position. They did allow him to apply, but of course he didn't get that either. For this particular position at Progressive, it required either 8 years of creative writing experience / experience in copywriting, or a bachelor's degree in some sort of writing field. Think journalism. So again, Justin's getting frustrated that they won't hire him in these other positions, yet they have no reason to move him into those positions, and he's not qualified. Then in early August, he goes for a legal assistant position at Progressive. Again, to be a legal assistant, you need experience in the legal world. That's common sense. And we're just kind of, again, starting to paint a picture of, dare I say, delusion. On August 5th, 2017, Justin kicked open the facility doors at the office. I couldn't find a lot about this particular incident. I don't know if he was mad about the rejection of yet another position, or if he was just entering the office very enthusiastically or maybe aggressively. I don't know. His defense was that he played soccer and that's just how he opened doors. Either way, this was against Progressive's employee code of conduct. After an investigation, Justin was placed on administrative leave on August 17th, and on August 24th, he was fired. Now, again, this is my opinion, not a fact. Progressive, as far as I know, has not made a statement on this, but I have a weird feeling that they didn't actually fire him for kicking the doors in. If it was a model employee who was having a weird day and they did that, most companies are going to be like, hey, are you okay? And just have a sit down talk with HR and explain why that's not okay to do, right? I am personally of the belief, based on what I know from this case, that Progressive was looking for some sort of reason to let Justin go because he was incessantly applying for jobs and hounding them to get a better position, to get another position in the company. And he wouldn't have any sort of patience, and he wouldn't do what actually needed to be done to get those positions. I also would not be surprised if he was showing some kind of pattern of bizarre behavior that, again, Progressive just kind of saw this incident and was like, okay, this might be a good reason to fire him now because this guy seems a little unhinged. I don't know that for a fact, but if that is the case, it wouldn't surprise anybody. Now, can you guess what happened next? What do you think Justin did after he was fired from Progressive? If you guessed filed a lawsuit, you would be correct. In 2019, Justin sued Progressive Insurance for wrongful termination, and this whole lawsuit bled into 2020. He claimed that everything that happened at Progressive, including him taking a longer time than other employees to complete the academy, including him continuing to get rejected for these positions he was applying for, and including his termination, was all discrimination against him because he's a man. Like I said, he really wants to be a victim so badly. By my understanding of this particular part of the story, he was not able to build an adequate case or evidence against Progressive to prove that it was actually discrimination. But again, I think that goes back to Justin also not only having all these weird personality traits of being entitled and feeling special and better than everybody else. I think it also goes to show that Justin really, really wanted a lot of money. He really wanted power and money because he kept trying to get better jobs. He thought he was entitled to a high-paying job, and when he doesn't get it, he sues. And I honestly, again, opinion, not fact, I speculate that he thought that if he could just win one lawsuit, or that if one of these companies would settle and give him a chunk of money, that he could pay back his student loans, and that he would then have money to do this, that, and the other thing. Like, I honestly think that was his goal there, is to just have some company give him money for him suing them. I don't think it was really about the lawsuits. And now to move on to arguably even a more bizarre part of this entire story. So you guys have to understand that Justin was also, other than being extremely overeducated and smarter than everybody, he was a really amazing, talented artist. He is a musician. In fact, if you look him up on Google, it says musician underneath. It's quite delightful. And he also has self-published several books. Shortly before being fired from Progressive, he had reportedly taken a trip to Vegas in order to try to make his music career take off. Now, I'm gonna pause here to play you part of one of his songs because you guys have to hear this. Listen, I'm like sad that he's in prison because his musical gift is just one to behold. So we're just gonna listen to this together really quick.
Yo, you're Justin Moan. I heard you were gonna be here. My name's Moan. I heard you sing while I'm a producer. I wanna make cool music with you, and I wanna write books with you. Here are my friends, spray, and Leo. And here are our guns. You're either with us or against us. Can I count you into my crew? Can I make art with you? Or are you a punk ass bitch? It will take you home, let you think about it on the ride.
You're welcome. Remember, he ran off to Las Vegas while he was working at Progressive to try to get his music career to take off. That Delusion has entered the chat. Okay, so moving on to his books. He wrote several books, of course, self-published, and they were both fiction and nonfiction. So in 2017, he published a book called The Revolution Leader's Survival Guide: How Schools, Workplaces, and Social Norms Kill the Genius Inside All of Us, which includes a letter that he had sent to President Donald Trump. In the letter, he talked to Trump about a, quote, peaceful revolution that was coming, and that he would lead this revolution if America didn't change soon. Another book that he wrote was entitled Poems I Wrote While Stoned, and also a fictional book based off his own life called The Second Messiah, King of Earth. And in 2020, he self-published another fictional book called The Kingdom of Darkness. And the back of the book literally reads like his manifesto that we're going to talk about here soon. It also kind of sounds like it's plagiarizing the plot of the movie Dogma. However, who can prove that? Not me.
Why are we here?
Last, he wrote this pamphlet called America's Bloody Revolution, where he again mostly talks about the inevitable violent revolution to come, how everyone who is a, quote, traitor to America should be straight up killed, and even talks about killing his own family members. Now, one last important part before we get into the crime is that, yes, Justin's parents were actually trying to get him mental health help. There's only so much you can do since he was a full-grown adult. He was 32, 33 at this time, but 3 months prior to his dad's murder, Justin's parents insisted that he go get mental health help. He actually filled out all the assessments at a facility, and he was on the waiting list for outpatient treatment. However, before he was treated, Justin removed himself from this wait list. Okay, so I know we got a little unserious and a little kiki haha at Justin's just blossoming musical and writing career. Now, I do want to specify this is an extremely serious topic, and we are going to get back to serious for this next part, but nobody can deny that his music career is hilarious. I just feel like all that background info, we don't know much about Justin's childhood, but I feel like all of that still really helps us understand who Justin is as a person. And I also just want to stress that, yes, I am aware Justin is obviously struggling from some sort of serious mental illness. And while that is not funny at all, I do still think that plenty of people with mental illnesses don't go on to kill their own family members. And in spite of that, Justin is still responsible for his actions here, which we will actually talk about again if you're like, wait, but if he's insane, is he responsible? And I will talk about that later because, yes, we're going to talk about that when we're talking about his preliminary hearings and stuff like that. So, okay, we are now going to get into the actual events of the day. And just a major content warning here, this is going to be pretty disturbing, this section of the video. Here we go. So Tuesday, January 30th, 2024 at around 2 p.m. in the afternoon, Denise Moan, who is Justin's mother, leaves the house. The only two people that were home at the house after she left was Justin's father, Michael Moan, the victim of today's case, as well as Justin. Sometime after Denise left the house, Justin ambushes Michael, his own father, and I don't know the exact timeline, but it must, for how much he did before he left and before he was caught, it must have been pretty soon after she left. So poor Michael was literally trying to use the restroom. He was in the bathroom, on the toilet, or using the toilet when Justin comes in and he shoots his father in the head. Justin would later claim that the reason Justin had to kill his father in that moment was because Justin was trying to perform a citizen's arrest while his father was trying to use the bathroom, and his father resisted said citizen's arrest, and therefore Justin justifies this by saying that brute and deadly force is allowed if a citizen's arrest is resisted. Watch this clip.
All right, Justin, now's your time. You said we defamed you. You said we haven't told your story. What is it?
Well, I wasn't expecting this. I had a speech ready, but I don't have that speech on me. I and a lot of other people around America believe that the federal government has betrayed America. They're destroying the country, and we have to do something to take our country back.
What does killing your father have to do with that?
Well, he was a federal employee and betrayed me. I was trying to perform a citizen's arrest. He resisted that citizen's arrest. It's lawful to use deadly force in that event.
So, Justin ends his own father's life, and his father dies extremely quickly, which, honestly, thank God. While Michael shouldn't have lost his life at all, like, while this was a senseless and needless murder, and Michael did not deserve this at all, given what Justin goes on to do, I have to say it's a relief that, at least for Michael, it was quick. Justin proceeds to put his, this is super disturbing, you guys. So Justin proceeds to put his father's body into the bathtub. You know, he doesn't want to make a mess. And he then used both a machete and a large kitchen knife to remove Michael's head. Justin then left the bigger part of his father's body in the bathtub, took his father's head, put it in a clear plastic bag, and then put that into a large pot from the kitchen. Then Justin sits down and films a video that he would post on YouTube that would go on to get almost 5,000 views on YouTube and would be up for hours before YouTube managed to take it down. Okay, so pause in the events. We're gonna shift gears really quick to talk about this video that Justin posted. For obvious reasons, I can't show you the video because he shows his father's, in the video several times. It is a 14-minute and 34-second video, and I have watched it in its entirety several times now. So I'm going to tell you what Justin says in the video. Obviously, I'm not going to go through his whole manifesto because this is a video manifesto, but I'm going to summarize and explain so you get an idea of what happens in the video. And spoiler alert, it's not groundbreaking. So Justin opens the video by picking up his father's head in this bag and declaring, "This is the head of Mike Moan, a federal employee of 20 years, and my father." Justin is notably wearing gloves in the video. The detectives would go on to describe them in the affidavit and in the arrest warrant as rubber gloves, but they don't look like rubber to me. Again, I can't show you because the only time he has the gloves shown in the video is when he's holding up his father, but they look like those nitrile food safe gloves. I use those when I have to handle chicken or something because I can't handle chicken. And it looks like he's wearing just like regular food safe, some sort of like clear disposable gloves. They don't look like rubber, like kitchen gloves or anything like that. Anyway, Justin now then goes on to say that his father is, quote, in hell for eternity for betraying his country. By the way, it doesn't really matter because no matter what, Michael did not deserve this. But for the sake of clarity, Michael was an engineer for the Army Corps of Engineers. Justin then goes on for the next 14 minutes to read his manifesto. He's clearly reading off his computer for the whole video. Then throughout the video, he takes short breaks to get a drink from his water bottle. He has just a generic plastic water bottle out of frame that every now and then, every like paragraph or so, he stops to take it and he gets a drink and puts it back down. And the reason I tell you guys this is to give you an idea of the video, but also just to point out how odd this feels, and it's almost comical as you're watching the video. Again, not that this situation is funny in any way, shape, or form, but the juxtaposition of him reading off his manifesto after what he just did and trying to explain to us why he, his grandiose thinking and why he's trying to lead this revolution to change America. And he's just so thirsty at the same time. Like, he needs to stay hydrated. I'm sure the explanation is that he's probably pumped full of adrenaline for what he just did. And he's probably sweating and hot from everything that he had done that day. That has to have something to do with it, but still just very, very bizarre part of the video, in my opinion. Justin then goes on to introduce himself as Justin Moan, and he says that he is the commander of a group called Moans Militia. He claims that Moans Militia is a national network of militias. He is here today to let everybody know who is in his network, all these supposed people around America who have been following him and who have been selling him that they're willing to help him in the revolution. He is there to give them all permission to act. Specifically, Justin calls for all people in his militia to kill any federal employee on sight, just like he did to his dad. He explains that every federal employee is a traitor to America and helped ruin America for people like him. Now, Justin speaks as if he has this super large following, and that becomes even more clear later in the video. But obviously, this is a delusion. He doesn't have a following at all. Maybe he's spoken to some people online that share his very hatred-filled beliefs and his very violent thinking. Maybe he's found some people that share that, but he's acting like there's going to be this millions of people hiding in the US in the corner waiting for him to give permission to jump out and start this revolution, but nothing happens. Nobody follows suit. So Justin's following was either sort of there, but never planning on actually doing anything illegal, just kind of agreed with his ideologies, or at worst was completely fabricated in his mind. About 5 minutes into the video, he again picks up his father and shows him in the camera. This time he leaves his father's head in the soup, the big pot, and holds up the entire pot. That is the only 2 times that he shows his father in this video. He then spends the rest of the video on an unhinged, mentally unwell tirade of anti-government extremism. He repeatedly calls Democrats, leftists, and liberals the far left woke mob. Where have you heard that before? He repeatedly claims, quote, the LGBT and the BLM socialists are taking all the jobs from hardworking Americans. That affirmative action, that Black Lives Matters, and the queer community are actively and have successfully taken all jobs from the hardworking straight white men. Again, where have we heard this before? And seriously, I'm going to read an exact quote that I wrote down from this video. At one point, he says, "Only the far left woke and LGBT employees have job security and get promotions, while the quota of unemployment and homelessness is often met with the cream of the crop of America's educated straight white men simply because they are educated straight white men and affirmative action is in place." That is a direct quote from the video. And then in the video, it gets more delusional and more clear that he is quite mentally unwell, because he also talks, I'm not even kidding, he talks about how he himself, in spite of his young age, was the preferred candidate for the 2020 presidential election. He was the favored candidate. He was supposed to be the one that both Democrats and Republicans would unanimously vote for president of the United States in 2020. He even calls out former governors, one Republican and one Democrat. So John Kasich of Ohio and John Hickenlooper of Colorado, saying that these 2 men can confirm that he was supposed to be the candidate and that these 2 governors sacrificed their own presidential campaigns in favor of Justin. Now, I hope this goes without saying, but these 2 governors there's no evidence that they had any contact with Justin. There's no evidence that they ever endorsed him or ever even spoke to him. This is what we call cut and dry a delusion of grandeur. I'm not diagnosing Justin with anything. We will talk about what he actually has been diagnosed with. So I'm not a professional. I'm not diagnosing him, but if anybody said this and was serious, that would be considered a example of a delusion of grandeur. He also goes on to say that a lot of people in his movement consider him the Messiah, the second Messiah, and he specifies, I'm not calling myself the Messiah. I would never compare myself to Jesus Christ, but I am saying that other people consider me as the Messiah. So that's the gist of the video. It's all, again, when people go on these kind of mentally ill tirades, it's hard to understand what they're saying. I'm sure you guys kind of know what I mean, where it just sounds like they're speaking gibberish and they're making it's all nonsense, you know? And like I said, a lot of his manifesto sounds like the back of one of the fictional books I showed you earlier. But if you really listen to what he's saying, he does have a message. You just have to listen to it a few times. But I did finally understand what he was really trying to tell everybody. The main gist of this video is that he has a secret militia with a ton of followers, and now is the time to act. He has started the revolution. They need to continue the revolution. Okay, so going back to the very beginning, Denise comes home at 6:59 p.m., sees that the 2009 Toyota Corolla is gone from the driveway, and thinking that her husband isn't home, she goes up to the front door, finds that the front door is unlocked, finds that very weird, so she goes inside, and Denise is the one that finds her husband in the bathtub without his top. The PTSD that this woman must be suffering, I just can't imagine. I hope that she's doing okay. I hope she got a lot of therapy and a lot of support, because I cannot imagine walking into that. Nobody should ever have to walk in to something like that for anyone, let alone their loved one. Just unimaginable. Police, of course, are dispatched and rush to the scene. They, of course, see the body in the bathtub, and then in the bedroom on the first floor near the bathroom, the bedroom closest to the bathroom, they find the pot with the rest of Michael's remains in that pot, as Justin showed in the video. In another bedroom, they find the clear gloves that Justin appears to be wearing in the video, and they're covered in blood. Like I said, this video was on YouTube for several hours before it was taken down, and it had close to 5,000 views. Obviously, people were going to call the police when they saw this video. At least a few people called 911, and it was easy to figure out where this video was coming from, because in the video, Justin doxes one of the government officials that he wants targeted. He doxes his address and says, this is his address, blah, 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 Pennsylvania, go get him, basically. And so it's obvious where he was and where he was close to. So people were not only able to call 911, but they were able to connect it to this, to Denise's 911 call very, very quickly. So Justin didn't even turn off his cell phone, which is wild for how smart he thinks he is. But they know his identity. They know about when this happened. They know the car that he's in, and they were able to ping his cell phone. So it didn't take long. They found him within a couple hours. And get this, they found the Toyota Corolla at the Fort Indiantown Gap, about 100 miles away. In this area, there's a National Guard training facility. Justin, armed with a weapon, jumps the fence, the barbed wire fence of this facility, and is on the grounds and broke into the grounds. Now, thankfully, nobody else was harmed in this case. Justin actually didn't go there to hurt anybody else. He went to the National Guard to ask them to join him. He was going to go to the National Guard and convince them to join his revolution. Seems odd to me that his grievances are with all federal employees, yet people in the military are fine. That just seems odd to me, because usually military people are going to be pretty patriotic, I guess I would say, which I guess maybe Justin likes. I don't know. It just seems kind of weird to me. It just kind of seems contradictory to me. I know people in the military are not technically federal employees, but it's just kind of odd that he's fine with one government group but not another. Anyway, Justin gave himself up once the police came. He was arrested without incident, and like I said, thankfully nobody else was hurt. Justin was then subsequently charged with first-degree murder, abuse of a corpse, and possessing an instrument of crime with intent. He was, of course, completely denied any type of bail. Okay, so where are we now? What is going on with Justin now? Obviously, Justin is in jail awaiting his sentence. He will almost certainly go to prison. He is currently going through the legal process, the judicial system. He's doing preliminary hearings. I don't think he's even put a plea in yet, if I understand. I do want to talk about the preliminary hearings, though, to talk about Justin's diagnoses and kind of what's going on here, because that was my first question is he going to be able to claim defense by reason of insanity? So Justin's defense, of course, wants to say that Justin is not competent to stand trial due to mental illness. Justin has a forensic psychologist who was able to diagnose him with schizophrenia. However, the psychologist would later backtrack and say, just kidding, it's not schizophrenia. I've read a lot of his letters and the works and stuff and the manifesto he's been making, and I actually believe that the proper diagnosis is delusional disorder. But this forensic psychologist on Justin's defense is claiming that this delusional disorder would prevent Justin from working with his attorney and working on a proper defense for himself. But interestingly, Justin actually fired his first attorney. He was assigned a public defender, as everybody has the right to a defender to be assigned to them if they cannot afford one on their own. And he then claimed he needed a new one. He asked the judge if he could get a new one. And he did this because he believed that his current public defender was conspiring against him and working with the government. Sort of proves the forensic psychology's point, in my opinion, but yeah. And the judge did grant this request. The public defender was like, sure, please fire me. That's fine. And Justin requested a Christian attorney to represent him from now on. Now, the prosecution, on the other hand, also gets psychological experts. The prosecution, after spending time with Justin, their experts claimed that Justin did not have delusional disorder, but rather depressive disorder. They also claimed that he had a cannabis use disorder and another sort of personality disorder, but not schizophrenia. And in spite of the diagnoses, the prosecution testifies that Justin knows what he's there for. He knows what he was doing at the time of the crime. He knows what he's being charged for, and he's perfectly capable of working with the defense team to try to go to trial and prove that he shouldn't be charged for first-degree murder. The judge ultimately decided that Justin is, in fact, competent to stand trial. So where we are right now, the most recent update, the judge said he can't claim the insanity defense, which it seems weird considering how clear it is that he's mentally unwell, but I think people forget often how difficult it is to prove insanity. It is incredibly people act like it's the easy way out, that like, oh, just pretend like you're crazy and you'll get off scot-free. That's not how it works. It's actually incredibly hard to be granted an insanity plea. But that means that when the trial comes around, and I couldn't find a trial date, so I think it's just, the legal process. It's just in a lot of all those pre-hearings and stuff. So when that comes around, Justin will have to, my understanding is, put in a plea of either guilty, take a plea deal, or not guilty and go to trial. So reportedly, though, as he's in jail right now awaiting trial, he is a model prisoner. Justin is extremely well behaved in prison. He's apparently very, very polite. He's courteous. He keeps to himself, and he spends most of his free time with other inmates playing cards, playing Monopoly, playing other board games. But allegedly, he is still sending out mail from jail, but not to loved ones, not to people that he cares about, still to government people, to people in political positions. For example, he wrote a letter to Vladimir Putin and literally sent it to the Russian embassy asking for forgiveness, apologizing to Putin for trying to, quote, overthrow his government, and then asking Putin if he could possibly grant him political asylum because he said, this is possibly a death penalty case, and I'm wondering if you could grant me asylum. He also sent a letter to Pennsylvania's current governor asking if they would pardon him for his crimes before he even went to trial. Wild. I know the prosecution is looking into the death penalty to see if that is what would be an appropriate sentence should he be found guilty and if he goes to trial. Now, my personal thoughts on this, if you don't know, I am against the death penalty overall, My feelings on the death penalty is that because it's been proven as a fact to be a racist system, that alone should make the entire thing shut down. That alone is enough for me to be against the death penalty as a whole. Now, I'm not saying I feel sorry for people that end up dying for killing a lot of people. It's not saying I feel sympathy for Ted Bundy or anything like that. That is not what I'm saying. Like, honestly, sometimes I'm just like, don't kill people then. But because it's a racist system, that means that I am just like blanket against it, no matter who is being tried or not. So I personally don't think that he should get the death penalty. But I also think because he is clearly mentally ill, that would be really, really cruel to me. And I personally would ask Mom. I would ask loved ones of Michael. Ask Michael's family what they think. I just wish they had more of a say in this, because this was their family member that killed one of their own family members. They're probably familiar with his mental illnesses. So it's like, I don't know, in a perfect world, I think Denise would be the one to make that call. And I just have a feeling, being a mother, that I doubt that she would want that for her son, no matter what he did, I don't know, of course, but that's just kind of my opinions on it. Like, regardless, his defense isn't really denying that he did these things. So I think it's more of just a matter of life in prison or the death penalty. And yeah, I just also really think, again, I don't want this to be construed as empathy or pity for him, because what he did was abhorrent and heinous. What he did was not, it was his responsibility. I do think he knew what he was doing at the time, and it was absolutely egregious, like not condoning his actions whatsoever. But you cannot deny that he was really mentally ill and really needed help and wouldn't go get it. If he wasn't delusional, he probably wouldn't have done this. So that's kind of my point. I'd love to know your guys' take on this and your opinions. Please let me know in the comments below. And yeah, please like this video. If you want exclusive videos, including a super secret iceberg that I'm not allowed to talk about over here, you could join the Patreon at mid-tier or above. We also do Netflix parties on there. Like I said, there's uncensored, juicy videos over there. We do polls. We do, there's a Discord server. There's all kinds of fun community stuff over there. And yeah, please like the video to help the channel, and I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you so much to all the patrons on the screen right now. Special shout out to our newest top alien tier, Steph Bravo. Steph, thank you so much for joining, and I will see you all in the next one. Okay, bye.